Alright folks, I'm back. This time I'm off to do a 2-night backpacking trip at Torreya State Park in Bristol, Florida. It's actually only a couple of hours away from where I live, so being Black Friday, I've got a long weekend. My dad and I decided to take advantage of it, so instead of saving 15% on a waffle iron that I'll never use, decided to go out in the woods instead and avoid the crowds. I've done this hike before. I think it's around 16 miles. Off the top of my head, I don't know the exact mileage, but there's 2 loops that are connected by just a short connector trail in the middle. We're gonna do sort of a figure 8 kind of arrangement to get through it. We're only gonna hike in like a mile or so today, and then do the bulk of the trail tomorrow, and then only have a couple miles to hike out, and of course hit up a brewery when we're through. I think that we're going to go to Oyster City Brewing down in Apalachicola, which is about an hour south of where Torreya State Park is. So we're looking forward to it. The original plan was I was actually going to go do a section of the Florida Trail this weekend, but the section I was going to do real close to where I live, it goes across Eglin Air Force Base, and there's 4 days of general gun season that just opened for the first time this year on Thursday. So as my dad put it, it's going to be like Vietnam out on the Air Force Base. So probably a good weekend to avoid. Normally I don't mind hunters. You just got your blaze orange and stuff, be safe. But being the first day of general gun season, when everybody that owns a firearm for a 100-mile radius is going to be out there hunting, it's better just to go somewhere else. So that's why we're heading to Torreya. It's only a couple hours away, like I said, so we're looking forward to it. Not very far from there now, so I'll see you there. Alright, so we just made it to the trailhead. This is the parking lot. Right behind me, you can see that's the road you come in on. It's like right when you come into the state park entrance. This is here on the left, and behind me there is the trailhead we're going to go in on. So I'll see you soon. And lucky for us, I don't know if you can see that behind me, there's a nice little sign to let us know that this is copperhead territory. Those are very hard to see, and they're very venomous snakes, so hopefully won't be seeing any of those. It's still warm enough out here for them, so you know, we're gonna keep our eye peeled for that. And also right behind me over here, there's some potable water, so you can top off your water right before you get started, so that's pretty cool. All right, we are officially on the hoof, heading to camp number 1 for tonight. It's only, like I said, like I think a mile and a quarter to camp, but it's really pretty through here. It's only like 1 p.m. so we're gonna have plenty of daylight left. That'll be cool though. We'll get set up and just really enjoy the night, get a fire going. So I will see you at camp. All right, so we made it to camp. There's the old duplex down there. There's my dad's set up. This is the Rock Bluffs primitive campsite. This is campsite number 2, which is probably the worst. There's 4 of them here. This probably has less flat area than any of them, but as you can see, there's a it's actually really well set up. There's a fire pit, benches. Got here early, so I got my hammock strung up right over there, and right up here on the banks of the Apalachicola River, which is really cool. And we can actually use this as a water source as well, because down this away, there's a little trail that takes you down to some rocks. You can get right down to the river, so that'd be cool. Got here early enough, you could actually fish, but like I said, that's the Apalachicola River. That river empties out into the Apalachicola Bay, which is known for having some extremely good oysters. I love Apalachicola oysters out of that bay, and it's actually in season right now. So anyway, south where it empties out, there's plenty of opportunity for some delicious oysters if you're into that. But this river also divides the eastern time zone from the central time zone. So there's a fun fact for you, and we are currently in the Eastern time zone. We came from the Central time zone. So another thing you should know, there's 4 campsites here. Like I said, 2 of them are down that way, number 3 and 4. This one that's not so flat. And then up here you have campsite number 1, which actually I just looked at and it's nice and flat as well. But we know that for next time. We kind of last minute made this reservation, and this was the only one that was available for tonight. And you do have to register for these campsites if you're going to do primitive camping here at Torreya State Park. I want to say it was $5 per person per night, so that's really reasonable. And another thing that's really cool, I'll show you here in a minute. All right, there's the trail we walked in on. It actually jumped out onto this road to get down to the campsites. And right through there, probably can't see it, but there's a couple of orange blazes, and that's where the trail is. And about 200 yards that way is our camp spots. And check this out, not even kidding. Porta potty, it's clean, got toilet paper in it, and bundles of firewood. The firewood is for sale, $5 a bundle. It's a donation thing. So really great place to come out here and you know, bring the family, or if you know, somebody that's new to backpacking that's not exactly wanting a full-blown wilderness experience right off the bat. What a cool place to come. So yeah, I thought that was really neat. And at all of the primitive campsites, this is shared between the 4 camp spots, but at all of the primitive camp spots, they have a porta potty and bundles of firewood for sale. So that's really cool. All right, I am heading down to the river to get some water. It's a little path just past the campsites. So I'm gonna fill up about 3.5 liters of water, because that's all I have the capacity to fill up. So I'm gonna top off and head back to camp. But you can see there's a lot of places, like down there, it's pretty steep to get down there, but that'd be, if you climbed down there, that'd be a cool place to hang out and fish. There's a lot of catfish and stuff in this river, so I will talk to you soon. All right, we're on the banks of the Apalachicola River now. Really pretty out here. I'll have to have a nice sunset from that direction. That's the river. It's actually really low right now compared to what it normally is, but the trail to get down here from the campground's right there.
Good morning, everybody. It's the morning of day 2. Survived last night, obviously. Got a pretty good night of sleep, as I often do in my tent. Today we have probably 10 or 11 miles. We're going to do the bulk of the hike today. To get it done, it's actually 2 loops, like I said. The second loop, named the Challenge Loop, is supposedly the most challenging loop to hike in the state of Florida. And I mean, that's not saying much. There's not much for elevation change in the entire state, but it's supposed to be the most challenging loop. I have hiked it before, and I remember it being kind of challenging. Maybe a little easier for me this time than it was last time, but we shall see. But anyways, we had a good night last night, enjoyed the fire. We'll probably be at camp early enough today to do the same thing, to enjoy a nice fire. Gotta say, the weather's been great. It got down into the 40s last night, which was really good sleeping weather for being in a tent. And the highs are forecasted to be in the 70s, so really nothing to complain about, especially for the end of November. So I'm going to get some caffeine in me and get on the trail. Alright, so here's the overall plan for the trip. Right here is the trailhead we came in on. Yesterday, we hiked from that trailhead down through here up to the Rock Bluff Primitive Campsite. Today, we're going to continue on this side of the loop to here. Then we're going to hit the connector trail, which goes across here, and then drop down to give us a little more mileage for today and kind of do a figure 8. So then we're going to hike all of this here and end up at the Torreya Challenge Primitive Camp. And from there, tomorrow when we leave, we'll come back out to the trail and complete our figure 8, go up and around this way, back across the connector trail, and then down back to the trailhead so that we get all of the trail done. Alright, we're a couple miles in for the day. It's been a really enjoyable hike through here. It's actually kind of pretty, kind of a diverse ecosystem, you know, when you get a little higher elevations versus the bottoms, which is essentially on this side a floodplain for the Apalachicola River. But I don't know if you can see it behind me. Sun's probably in the screen, but that's the Gregory House. That's actually the house in the state park there that you register and check in for your campsites and stuff like that. But been a really enjoyable hike so far. We've only been at it for like maybe 30-45 minutes, and we're actually where we stopped and took lunch last time we hiked this. So definitely all the miles I've hiked over the last year have made this much easier, but it's a lot of fun. Really enjoying it so far.
All right, so we made it to the stone bridge, which is right behind me here. It's actually pretty cool, and this is where the connector trail starts to connect the two loops. We're getting ready to get on the Torreya Challenge Trail. Luckily, when I got down here to the stone bridge, there was like 5 or 6 screaming toddlers, so that was a bonus. But anyways, you get what you get. You know, we are in a state park. It just comes with the territory, but they're on up the trail, so we'll probably pass them again, so we get to listen to all that again. But it's actually a pretty cool bridge. Check it out. Talk to you soon. All right, so that last water source you just saw me get water at, I thought it might be the last one. Everything's kind of dry around here, but I couldn't remember how much farther the next one was. I remember crossing a little bridge and there being water in it the last time I hiked here, and we got to that and it was like maybe a half mile beyond where I stopped and got water. But I honestly don't know if there's any water at the campsite. Last time we camped at this primitive campsite, we got there late enough in the day, it was already getting dark. We didn't do any kind of exploring to see if there's any water nearby. And I don't have any kind of maps that have any detail with water. So we played it safe. I got 5.5 liters of water with me. I drink a lot of water, and I'm gonna need it for camp tonight, as well as for, you know, to leave with at least a liter of water tomorrow in the morning, because it's gonna be at least a couple of miles to get to where I know there's water tomorrow. So anyways, got 5.5 liters of water. It's kind of heavy, but it makes the challenge loop a little more challenging. Obviously my bag's pretty light right now because I'm only out for 2 nights, and it's nice warm weather. I don't have any kind of cold weather gear other than my puffy jacket. I always keep my puffy with me. So if we do discover any water, and by the way, that water was actually from the time you get off that connector trail on to the challenge trail, it wasn't even a mile in, so I'm having to carry this stuff like 3 or 4 miles. So but it's better than not having water. Anyways, if there is any water, you know, that I don't remember, or if there's any water at camp, I will report back to you. All right, so we made it to camp. It's only like 12:30, but that's all good. We have time to hang out. Like I said, this is a lot easier than the last time I did it because I'm definitely in a lot better shape. But it was an enjoyable hike, really nice. It's not very warm out here, but it is humid, so I did need a lot of water. Speaking of which, like an idiot, I carried way too much water right behind me, right here by the campsite. You know, this is our campsite. We're at number 2 here at the primitive campsite for the challenge loop. There's water down there, so I just carried about 11 pounds in water for like 4 miles for no good reason. But anyways, it was better to be safe than sorry. And there was a couple more creek crossings on the way. I just didn't remember from the last time, and I wasn't gonna risk it. So this is camp. Like I said, it's number 2 here at the primitive campsite for the challenge loop, and I'll talk to you soon. So this is the water source for the campsite. As you can see, it's a really good source. I mean, you'd have to scoop it probably. There's a couple of little drops that you can probably fill a bottle right over there, but plenty of water here. Maybe hard to see, but plenty of good water. No need to carry your water for 4 miles on the challenge loop. But it's literally right up that hill there is camp. So it's only like maybe a 75-yard walk down to the water source. So don't make the same mistake I did. That was a bunch of wasted time and energy and all that. But yeah, it's good to know for next time. I won't make that mistake twice.
Hey everybody, I've obviously made it to my tent for the evening, and I've got to say, I've had a really good time on this trip so far. As you know, got to camp pretty early today, about 12:30 or so. Had camp completely set up by 1, but it was really nice. Got to hang out in my hammock for a while, just relax, and then a little later on we got a fire going, and just hung out around the fire, ate some good food. Now we're winding down in the tent, but tomorrow we only have about 4 miles to get back to the truck, and yeah, pretty excited. We're gonna go check out the Oyster City Brewery. I've had a lot of their beer, and all of the beers that I've had from them have been really good, but I've never been to the brewery, so pretty excited about that. Looking forward to it, and of course I'll let you know how that goes. But it's been a really fun trail. A little bit of a change of pace, obviously, from what I've been doing in the past, but I've really been enjoying it, so just wanted to let you know how it's going, and I'm going to get some sleep, so I'll see you tomorrow. Good morning, everybody. Survived another night in the wild wilderness of Torreya State Park here in Florida. It's pretty early in the morning. Still here at camp, getting ready to get broken down, and as you can see, I told you that these campsites are set up for 4 different parties basically, and most of the tent pads you can get at least 2 tents on, and you've got a fire ring, benches. It's really cool. But the reason I'm even mentioning that again is because we were by ourselves last night, and when we called to make this reservation, it was kind of last minute. Like I said, we were going to go do a section of the Florida Trail, but because of the hunting, they opened hunting season for 4 days for the first time for general gun season for the year, so wasn't going to be a great idea to be out there. If nothing else, it was just going to kind of all the gunshots would kind of stifle the experience anyways. But here at Torreya State Park, we called sort of last minute, and you have to call to make a reservation for the primitive camping areas. And they only had 1 spot left in both of the areas that we decided we wanted to camp in. And last night it was a little frustrating. Well, not last night, but our first night out, Friday night, it was a little bit frustrating because the tent site that we had was like the only one there. It was the one of the 4 that had like pretty bad tinting. It was pretty slanted, but we were the first ones there. We set up anyways. We were at number 2. And only 1 other group showed up. So that whole night there was 2 other perfectly good campsites that nobody showed up to. It was just a little bit frustrating. Now here we had good tinting,
but nobody showed up to the other 3, and they were all booked as well. And yeah, I just feel like the state park should at least like require you to pay in advance, because you actually you can just call, make the reservation, and then you pay when you get to the park. You know, it's cheap, but I feel like the park's losing out on money. And more importantly, you know, it would kind of encourage people, if you're not going to come, to cancel, because surely there's a lot of people that would have come out here that didn't, because when they called, everything was reserved, and obviously there's plenty of space. Now, there's no problem with them reserving stuff, obviously, because we got the last, but you know, having people show up must be a problem. I don't get it. And they have it to where they've got a big car camping ground here in the park to where you can get online, you can check availability, you can reserve it, pay for it. So I mean, they have the infrastructure in place. It just doesn't make any sense as to why the primitive camping is the way it is. But you know, it's mainly a bummer, because certainly there's people that would have come out here that couldn't, and they don't allow stealth camping out here. So I mean, you have to have a reservation. So you know, that's kind of the only complaint I have about the place. The trail's been really good. You know, it hasn't been pancake flat, but it's been more, I guess, like a waffle flat, if you follow what I'm saying. It's just kind of little constant up and downs. You never change any more than 100, 200 feet of elevation, but it sure is fun. And you know, it's well maintained. There's some bridges that you cross that are a little bit sketchy, but it's no big deal at all. Nothing like really dangerous or anything. But yeah, we're enjoying ourselves out here. Luckily, there was at least a couple of campsites left, you know, when we called to reserve. And it was nice to have it to ourselves. Don't get me wrong. It's actually what I prefer. And in the interest of full disclosure, I much prefer just going out into sort of a wilderness area anyway to do backpacking and stealth camping by water, you know, using reasonable leave no trace principles. You know, I prefer that over being at a state park anyway, to where once you get to camp, you're kind of on top of everybody. Everybody's really close. But I mean, everybody we've met out here has been really cool. And another thing that's kind of funny is a few groups of people that we've seen on the trail. You know, we're using trekking poles, and I'm just so used to them from all the hiking I've done. You know, yeah, it's not really necessary. And to be completely honest, I thought about leaving them at home for this trip, because it's not like there's any sketchy rocky descents or anything. But then luckily I came to my senses and realized, you know, when it was time to go set up my tent, that was going to be an issue if I didn't have my trekking poles, because my tent, that is my tent poles. My trekking poles are my tent poles. So anyways, but you know, they all it's like they didn't even know what trekking poles were. They were all confused as to why you would have poles. And it's just funny. It kind of reminds you that you're in Florida and not, you know, in the mountains. But anyways, you know, I'm kind of excited. Today we're just going to hike a few miles out. We're going to take our time, enjoy it. Get back to the truck, and then head down to Apalachicola. Probably the first order of business will be find somewhere to get something to eat, and then we'll definitely get down to the Oyster City Brewery, which, as you know, I'm excited about. So I'll take you along for that. So I'll talk to you soon. All right, folks, we are almost back to the truck. Gotta say, it's been a really enjoyable hike through here this morning. Only a few miles, like I said, but it's really cool how the the kind of ecosystem tends to change so much through here. You wouldn't think that for Florida, but it's pretty diverse. Now we're on a higher area, and you can see it's just kind of a bunch of wiregrass and pine and stuff. It's really neat. But anyways, wanted to tell you, I forgot to tell you, on our way in to come hike out here, we we stopped for lunch at the Appalachia restaurant, which in Bristol, Florida, which is where we are, that's pretty much it for somewhere to eat. And as soon as you get east of the Apalachicola River on that bridge, you'll see the restaurant. I highly recommend it. Really good food. We only had like a mile to hike in, so we ate the buffet, which was a bunch of fried chicken and fried catfish and greens and mashed potatoes and gravy and all that good southern food. Really, it was really good. But on the way in, we seen a guy hiking across the bridge, and we came in on Highway 20 here in Florida. Runs east to west, and the Florida Trail actually crosses the Highway 20 2 or 3 times on our way in. And like I said, we saw a guy hiking across the bridge to the restaurant, and he had a Hyperlight mountain gear pack, and you could tell he was doing long distance hiking. He wasn't just homeless or anything. But it's funny because he went in the restaurant, and we could tell that the staff sort of thought he was homeless. He was looking for a place to plug his phone in. Of course, he just came off trail to eat at the buffet, which was a good call on his part. But I ended up having the opportunity to hook him up with some trail magic, which was awesome because I was given so much trail magic on the AT that there's no way I could even start to pay that back. But it was cool, so I went ahead and I paid for his buffet. It was only $10, but it was something. I didn't really get to talk to him because we were in sort of a hurry to get here to the state park because they closed the gate pretty early in the day, and we had to get down to the Gregory house to get registered and get started and everything. But so we were in a hurry, and we crossed into the Eastern time zone, so we jumped ahead an hour, and so I really didn't have time to talk to him, but I was able to at least pay it forward a little bit, cover his buffet for him. But it's probably pretty uncommon on the Florida Trail, especially up here, to be getting trail magic. At least I would imagine it is, and it's probably uncommon for the people at that restaurant to have a bunch of people come through, because it's definitely not the AT. So I thought that was kind of a cool story. Anyways, I'm not far at all from the truck, so I'll see you down there. All right, looks like we made it back up to the road, which is good. And if everything goes according to plan, the truck will still be there in the trailhead parking lot, which is right over there. All right, so the truck is in fact where we left it. We're going to call that a successful hike. And of course, we left some provisions for ourselves to wrap the hike up with. All right, today's choice is a blah 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 IPA by 21st Amendment Brewing. It's good beer. I've had it before. Something you should know, though, is in the state of Florida, the Florida state parks, you're not allowed to have any alcohol in the state park. But, I wouldn't break any of the rules.
All right, this is the Gregory house. This is the house that you actually check into when you get to into Torreya State Park. If you look over there to the left, that small little house, which I could imagine was like servants' quarters or maybe an outdoor kitchen or something, that's actually where the offices are. When you get to the park. And this is the house that you could see from the trail. You saw yesterday morning, about an hour into my hike. You saw it up on the hill. At least I think you could see it. But anyways, this is where you check in. It's a really cool house. It's about 3,000 square foot. It gets its name, the Gregory House, because it was owned by Jason Gregory and his family. And it's an 1840s plantation house. It's about 3,000 square feet. They do tours of it, which would actually be cool. I'm not going to do it this time, but I definitely should at some point. But kind of a neat little piece of history is the house actually originally sat on the west bank of the Apalachicola River, and the Gregory family, they donated this house to the CCC, or Civilian Conservation Corps, in the 1930s. But the caveat was that
this house had to be moved over to the eastern banks of the Apalachicola River, where it sits now. So they had to dismantle it piece by piece and put it back together where it stands now. So thought that was pretty interesting. And just in case you were wondering how Torreya State Park gets its name, it's from this tree here, which is an extremely rare tree, one of the most rare conifer trees that there are, known as the Torreya taxifolia, pretty much only seen in this area. It was discovered back in 1835 by a botanist here in the Apalachicola River area named Hardy Bryan Croom. And according to Wikipedia, they did a survey back in the year 2000, and they estimated the population of the Torreya taxifolia in its native habitat to be only between 500 and 600 individuals, and only about 10 trees at that time were capable of reproduction. And due to a poorly understood fungal blight, they said that it destroyed like 98% of the population. They do believe that that extinction is inevitable. So that's unfortunate. But anyways, just in case you were wondering how the state park got its name, there you have it. Alright, we just left the brewery. What a good call to go to that brewery, Oyster City Brewing, in Apalachicola, Florida. It wasn't that far from the trail. If you go pretty much due south from Torreya State Park, you're going to land there. And it's not a bad drive. You actually go through the Apalachicola National Forest. So it's actually pretty neat to go through. Not a whole bunch of development or anything. Something you should keep in mind about the brewery, though, it's cash only. But it's a very small brewery, and it's right there in downtown Apalachicola. It was a really enjoyable place. Had a lot of good beer. Yeah, I'm almost ashamed to say that I've never been to Apalachicola before, and I live very close to it. Had their oysters out of there many a time, but never actually been to the city. But it's really cool. It's what I would imagine Key West was 35 years ago. It's really laid back. Just a really cool vibe, really enjoyable place. But really enjoyed Oyster City Brewing. Oh, and you probably don't even recognize me. Got a new hat there at the brewery. Had that other one for so long that I don't even know how to act in a new hat. But really enjoyed hiking at Torreya State Park. Yeah, it's not, known for awesome views or anything like that, but it sure is a good time. It's very approachable to a lot of people. Really good if you're just getting into beginning backpacking, or you're going to take friends or family or a significant other or whatever out, and they're not super used to the normal backcountry type camping, because as you saw, there's firewood available. There's porta potties at the campsites, which is that's kind of a big deal for a lot of people. So it's just super convenient, really enjoyable place to be. And will I go back again? Absolutely. I mean, it's just fun. It's a great place. Had an awesome weekend. I mean, what a way to spend a weekend. So I encourage you to get out and do something really cool yourself, enjoy the outdoors. So we're not that far from home, on Highway 98 right now. Probably be home in an hour or two. So anyways, I'm going to wrap this up. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments, and I'll see you next time.